It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Baptist Bible College head men's and women's soccer coach, Coach Jamieson Brooks. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Brandon?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in collegiate soccer?
Yeah, so even when I was a kid, I definitely kind of had the sports management calling. Whether it was playing video games or playing kind of recreational stuff with my brother or kind of community-based sports. I love being a player, but I was always super interested as well in kind of the management side and the training of players and signing of free agents and everything. I'd always watch Sports Center on TV and was kind of super into that, right? And so, kind of when I went to university for undergraduate, I studied sports management and, obviously knew that that was kind of what I wanted to do with the rest of my life, right? And so, from there, the coaching side is a great way to kind of get into that if you're looking to kind of be a little bit more on the technical side, right? And then when you kind of compare that with or kind of connect that with kind of the education stuff and the business side, you kind of get the opportunity to run teams. And I just thought, kind of being a soccer head coach, which, seemed awesome as a kid and, even better with kind of some of the experiences that I had, growing up playing sports, either at the club level or the high school level. There was really no question as to where I eventually wanted to get to, right? And so, along the way, it's been an awesome opportunity for me to kind of have different experiences related to, working in Major League Soccer for the Vancouver Whitecaps, right? And kind of getting connected a little bit on the technical side there, getting my feet wet, and then kind of realizing that I really wanted to be kind of a part of it on the collegiate side. Just kind of that year-round opportunity to, kind of have, really meaningful conference games and playoffs. I don't know, there's just something about never being kind of get away from that, right? So you're always kind of looking for that adrenaline boost. You want to play in big games, just kind of like you did as a kid. And the only real way you can kind of do that on the professional side, is to really kind of stay involved in kind of the sports in that context, right? And so there's no question for me as to, what I was kind of put on this earth to do and what I want to do. And I'm super happy that I've been kind of able to do it as an assistant coach and kind of a JV coach along the way. But now obviously it's becoming real with kind of me being a first year head coach and I couldn't be happier with kind of things have played out.
What was that experience like getting to work with the professional team and working with the Vancouver Whitecaps?
Yeah, it was kind of crazy just because in being an intern in the communications department for the Vancouver Whitecaps, that was during their first season in Major League Soccer, right? So, at the time, Major League Soccer wasn't really a known commodity, right? It was starting to grow a little bit. Toronto had some success in terms of kind of putting it on the map in terms of Canada, but not so much on the performance side. Vancouver had always kind of had, teams in the city, throughout the years kind of coming and going, right? And so, to kind of be able to be a part of that when you were just kind of graduating from university and needing to do an internship, I couldn't really think of a better opportunity for someone to be able to experience, right? And they were obviously growing at the time because their transition from where they were to Major League Soccer, was a big step for them, right? And so as a result, yeah, was kind of heavily involved in kind of the writing on the websites and doing their residency stuff and their women's league stuff and, kind of, everything going on within kind of, the player interviews, right? And the recordings and the transcriptions and all of that. And so it was a great way to kind of get, your foot in the door in terms of, all the sports management students always want that opportunity, right? They're always like, oh, I'd love to work for this team, or I'd love to be involved in some capacity in this team, right? And so I felt really lucky to be able to do that, and as a result, I ended up kind of staying with the Vancouver Whitecaps for 5 years. I did the, kind of the traditional ticket sales thing, right? Where, I worked in group sales for a while. So we had a lot of promotional nights and we kind of call different businesses and kind of looking to give them, kind of a staff outing kind of a way, right? And so did that for a couple of years and really enjoyed it, really kind of got the city connected to coming out to the games and to kind of learn about the team and to kind of really advance kind of soccer in North America from there. And then did a couple of years as well kind of on the soccer development side, running some of their big youth soccer showcases at the times, right? Which again was just kind of that next step in towards me kind of getting into eventually the technical side, because I was kind of doing all the operations and planning and event management for their tournaments. So no, it was a great opportunity. And some people work 10, 12, 15, 20 years to kind of eventually bridge that gap into doing whatever it is they're doing to going into professional sports. I was lucky enough to kind of get that ticket right out of kind of university, and as a result, I still kind of fondly look back at some of those times, and they're some of the best moments in my life in living in Vancouver.
What was that experience like transitioning from being in Canada and working for a professional team to getting into college coaching?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it was the perfect transition for me just because, during my 5 years there, I learned so much about Major League Soccer. I learned so much kind of about, the soccer pyramid as it relates to kind of North American soccer, right? And so, all of it was changing and evolving and growing, all at the same time, right? And so, new leagues were coming in, some leagues were leaving, right? New kind of things were being created, new pathways were kind of developing, right? And so I really kind of had like a bird's eye view in terms of being able to be close to it and see what it is that I really wanted to get into. For me, right, college sports was always really important, with me kind of going to Trinity Western University, in Langley, BC. They have a huge sports culture there. Very, very, very kind of prestigious athletic program in terms of winning national championships in different sports, right? And so, it was kind of easy for me to kind of get attached to the college side because, the place that I had been, right, was so into it and so energetic and put a lot of kind of time, money, and energy into, making it the best program that they could have in Canada, right? And so, when I decided to kind of leave the Vancouver Whitecaps, by then I knew that I definitely wanted to be a college soccer coach, right? And so, I was kind of looking for, a good opportunity to kind of get my foot in the door, and I didn't know where that would be. But it just kind of so happened that the current coach at the time, had just resigned from Trinity Western, and so they were kind of bringing in the assistant coach to kind of take over those responsibilities, and I had a relationship with him during my time as kind of a student at the university. And so I, just emailed them and said, hey, like, this is something I'd love to do at the assistant level. I'd love to be a team manager and kind of learn from you and kind of see, everything that's involved with it. Right. And so I was living in Vancouver at the time, and then I drive back and forth, every day for about 45, 50 minutes. Just kind of make like the 7 a.m. training session, right? And then on weekends it was games. And so it didn't take long to kind of get the bug, to really, really enjoy it and to kind of look forward to the games on the weekends and, all the rivalries and kind of local battles and kind of things like that. And so, did that job for 2 years, and I knew that's exactly what I wanted to do. And then kind of got the opportunity to go to the US through further education to kind of, really tap into kind of more of the American collegiate side.
What was your experience like going to Trinity Wesleyan, your alma mater, and getting to go coach as the assistant coach and team manager for them?
Yeah, I mean, I think, if you were to ask any sports fan or, anybody even involved in kind of different capacities in sports, right? One of the things you would always want to do is be able to say that you kind of worked for the athletic program of your favorite team, right? I mean, that's just kind of a box that you'd want to check. And probably not a lot of people get to do that, right? Once they kind of start working, elsewhere, that opportunity may not kind of come back around again. And so, for me, Trinity Western is my favorite university. It's the place that I have, a very like nostalgic connection to. I've had kind of multiple iterations of myself in terms of different jobs working there, right? And so, to be able to put on that logo and to kind of travel with the team, and play some of the places that we played both in Canada and the US, to kind of play in, the conference championship. It was everything that, any kind of person involved in sports would have ever wanted, right? And, it was the best feeling. There's still a lot of days where I kind of think back to a lot of those experiences. I'm still very connected to the coaching staff that is there, right? We have a text thread. We're always kind of keeping up with each other. We're always kind of, making jokes about each other, right? And so, those relationships have continued, long after now that I've kind of left, right? But, like would still kind of, love to be back again, just to kind of have another round. It's one of those things, it never gets old. And, and as a result of that, hopefully I never have to coach against them, right? They're kind of my Canadian collegiate team. And so, it's a good thing now that I'm in the US and coaching, just because I don't have that connection with the US program, right? And so, not having to ever coach against Trinity Western, is something that will probably be, somewhat important to me, because, it's a place that I hold with such high value, and, want them to continue to be successful in all their different activities, but especially soccer.
Leaving your alma mater, what was that experience like going to St. Thomas University to become the assistant coach and head JV coach?
Yeah, so I mean, like massive shift, right? Like on one day you're kind of, living on the West Coast with the Pacific Mountain beside you, or sorry, the Pacific Ocean beside you and the mountains, right? And kind of everything that's kind of involved in kind of the West Coast, energy and vibe. And then before you know it, you're kind of waking up, pretty close to the Atlantic Ocean, with endless amount of beaches and kind of like 100-degree heat with humidity going on, right? So, the transition couldn't have been probably very very much different, than it was, but we got into it right away, right? With kind of the American side, you kind of feel that intensity to it, right? The athleticism, the passion, the kind of all the kind of extra things that go on around it. Like it was cool to be a part of that. And it was also awesome to kind of explore kind of a state that I had visited as a kid, through kind of like the Disney Universal thing, but didn't really know a whole lot about the conference and the teams and that kind of area of the world in terms of like collegiate soccer, right? And so, some of my best memories are just kind of going on the road trips and kind of seeing, all the different universities and colleges, that are kind of scattered across Florida and kind of that, southeastern, part of the United States, and as a result, I couldn't have asked for a better 3 years to be a part of Michelle Smith's kind of coaching program. Another one of those situations where you work together, but you also become like really close friends, right? And it's a relationship that I still really value today. As I kind of said, I showed up and had emailed her and wanted to be a part of it. And the first year was kind of a little bit of a learning experience, just to kind of learn about the program and the players and kind of everything that was going on, right? But kind of quickly thereafter, it kind of became a lot of responsibility, very heavily involved on the recruiting side, doing a lot of kind of the analytics and operations and kind of the scouting, and we were really successful. We played against a couple teams that were at the time, I believe we're ranked number 1 and number 3 or 4 in the NAIA in terms of women's soccer, right? So our conference was tough. We had battles against Kaiser University. We had battles against Southeastern University, right? we were right there. We lost some games in overtime or double overtime against, some of the programs that went on to win, national championships at that level, right? And so, to kind of be around that kind of level of quality and to kind of learn, about, what American collegiate sports was like. In addition to kind of doing it in a place where, for most people it would kind of be like paradise, right? It was an unbelievable experience. And I still wish to some degree, I went down there for my schooling, right, to do my doctorate of business administration. But, just kind of another one of those opportunities where you wish, that, life could just go on forever in that capacity, right? But, obviously that's not the way it is. And, at some point you kind of have to move on. But, they've continued to do well after I've left. And, that's full credit to Michelle. And, now that I have my own program, I'm taking a lot of the things that I learned from there and kind of incorporating them into what I do. So it was a very valuable learning experience, and something that I continue to want to have those relationships for in the future.
While being the JV head coach there, what was that like? Obviously, getting that taste of head coach and that experience of being a head coach.
Yeah, well, I think like the right feeling when you're probably doing something that is the natural step for you in your life is, it's not happiness, it's contentment, right? Like with happiness can come the opposite sides, which is anger and frustration, right? But for me, I was always really content, like I knew that was what I wanted to do. It was exciting to go out and kind of schedule your own games and to have your own team at training and kind of work towards that group, becoming really successful, right? And a lot of people, whether it kind of be administrations or coaches or even the players, kind of look down on JV programs, right? Because they kind of see it as the place where they don't really want to be. They want to be at the varsity level, right? They want to be training with the first team. They want to be getting those minutes. They want to be scoring the goals. They want to be on social media. But like, let me tell you, like JV teams, and programs have a huge purpose, right? And one of those purposes is, if you get injured as kind of a first team player, right? It's a great opportunity for you to have a place to play to kind of come back from injury, especially if it's a very serious one, like some sort of ACL reconstruction or, something longer term that's going to require you to kind of need to get some kind of repetitions back into your game in order to kind of get it back to you being in form, right? And so we had some of those players that just kind of needed some extra work, right, in terms of getting their confidence back to where it was, to getting their mentality back to being like their body being healthy, right, and them needing some minutes just to kind of get back into form, and as a result they went on to be very kind of key players at the varsity level after that, right? And so it was kind of great to aid in some of that development and that progression and to see that system working well for that. And it was also great for some of the players who knew that they probably weren't going to get, very much time, playing at the first team level to kind of get out there and kind of feel like, a varsity athlete, right? So much of college experiences now is, wanting to get those minutes, right? And wanting to see, something kind of being, you want the payoff, right? You want to know that you're on the field getting better. You don't want to train every day and just kind of, tell yourself that, this is what you're going to be doing. You want to be playing games. You want to be competitive. You want to be traveling to different universities and, having a scoreboard and there being stats, right? And so, with all of that kind of, taking place, like it felt like I had my own team, and it felt like we were supporting the first team by doing what it is that we were doing, and I believe now, to this day, it's something that's very, very helpful for a lot of universities, and it's great for the players because they can kind of see that path towards where they need to get to and who's come in front of them and what those players are doing to be successful themselves.
What was that feeling like getting to become a head coach for the first time in your coaching career and getting to coach both the men and the women and coming to Baptist Bible?
Yeah, I think probably like the biggest feeling is just like relief, right? Because, it takes so many years to actually kind of get there, and, no matter what your background is, whether it be educationally or professionally, right? There's so many people who want to be involved in collegiate soccer or collegiate sports, right? And so as a result of that, you never kind of know, when that next opportunity is going to come, and what schools will be actually looking to hire, and which ones already going to have maybe somebody lined up. Right. And so, it was the best feeling ever, just because, you kind of finally crossed that line as to, what it is that you want to be doing. Right. And, the cool thing about it is now is, hopefully there's a long career, within collegiate athletics and being a soccer coach, and helping to build programs, and, kind of, winning games and competing for conference championships and going to nationals. And like, you kind of just see like the next mountain in front of you, right? You kind of get to the peak of one, and then, you kind of take that breath and you relief, and then you kind of get all the responsibilities and kind of things that, need to happen in order to then get the program moving in the right direction. And suddenly you see kind of, more mountains in the distance, right? And so, I've enjoyed it, right? It's been a great, kind of first, month with me kind of being involved in the program. There's been, a lot of positives that have come from it, a lot of good relationships already developing, and as a result of it, I'm really kind of positive about, where the future kind of lies in that respect. But, also huge challenges, right? Getting one sports team, kind of off the ground, is probably a challenge of itself. And then kind of doing it at the same time, is an even bigger task, especially when you're not really starting until April, right? It kind of puts your feet to the burner in terms of, really needing to be good at time management and making sure that, you're doing the things you need to be doing to kind of be successful. And so, yeah, I'm trying to enjoy as much as I can, even though, sleep at this point in my life is, not something that there is an abundance of. Trying to get out as many games as possible, high school games, junior college games, trying to do as much kind of on the digital recruitment side as well, and really get connected with as many possible recruits as I can, because, we need to fill out rosters, and, there's a whole bunch of kind of other stuff that kind of goes on in terms of the preparation to get those teams on the field, right? So, both contentment and a high level of stress would be the way that I answer that question.
Of course, after getting announced to become the head coach for both the men's and the women's, what has it been like, obviously building the culture, but also building the players and coaching staff around you?
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, right? It's like I kind of compare it to kind of you basically kind of being like a small business entrepreneur, right? And you have this business idea, and it's your job to kind of take it from the idea and kind of turn it into reality, right? And so there's all sorts of these different kind of, pillars that need to be in place, right? You need to have your recruitment, right? You need to have kind of your kit. You need to have, equipment. That one of the first things when I kind of showed up and started was, they said, we don't have an on-campus soccer field. We need you to go kind of source one out, and kind of make that your landing spot for, where you're going to train and play games, right? And so, we are literally starting from the ground. There's not a lot of soccer resources in terms of what our university currently, kind of includes, but with some of the things we've been able to do in a very short period of time, we now kind of feel like from a soccer facility standpoint, we have probably one of the best soccer facilities in the state of Missouri. And for those of you who don't know, we'll be out at Allison Sportstown, just out by the Springfield Airport, and they've got about 4 turf fields and 8 grass fields, all beautifully lined with kind of irrigation and lights. In addition to this world-class kind of indoor facility that has 2 completely dedicated indoor soccer fields as well, right? So we're really enjoying being out there. It's been a huge boost for us in terms of our recruiting. We've brought kind of recruits over to kind of tour the facility, and they're kind of verbally committing right on the spot, because the facility is so beautiful and it's somewhere where they want to be. They can see themselves playing there. They can see, everything that we're kind of telling them, about the university and whether our program is true, and so that has been a huge asset for us, but there's lots to go into it, right? And I keep all my kind of daily plans on my cell phone, so that way I know what I kind of have to get through at every point of the day. There's some days where it just doesn't seem like there's enough hours in the week, right? And that's kind of only getting like 5 or 6 hours of sleep a night, right? And so, it's not something you complain about. You accept it because you want the challenge, and that's what's required in order to build that business, if you will. But there's, it's also tough, right? There's lots of challenges that come with it. There's lots of phone calls that have to be had, a lot of back and forth with offers and things like that. And when you're not doing something, it's taking away time from doing a bunch of other things, right? And so yeah, it's been a lot, and I've learned a lot already, and I obviously knew, a fair amount just kind of coming in from the professional side, and then having about 5 years as kind of coaching on the collegiate side. But, there's kind of no, there's no kind of better way to put it than, the only way you can truly really learn is when it's your responsibility, and you're the one who has to kind of problem solve, everything around it, right? And so, that's what I'm going through right now, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm kind of looking forward to what's coming around the corner.
As a head coach, what is that like? Obviously, as you said, your home field is off of the campus, where most of the time colleges or campuses have their home field on their campus.
Yeah, I think for us, it's actually like a really cool thing. I can understand why, a lot of universities obviously want to own their own soccer facilities and have that control, right? But, I don't think it's necessarily something that's mandatory. One of the things, from Trinity Western that, I kind of experienced was, um, kind of at the U Sports CIS level, we had a soccer field that was on campus, right? And so we were able to train there and play there, in the fall and the spring. But when I was an undergrad student, they moved kind of the basketball and volleyball stuff actually off campus to this beautiful kind of facility about 10-15 minutes away, right? And it kind of became like a second home for a lot of the students in the university, because they were starting to go out there on game days, right? And kind of really rallying behind the team. And as a result, it kind of gave the university a little bit of kind of like a cool place to go if you didn't really want to always be on campus, right? And so we're going to kind of hope to create that culture a little bit where, obviously we're going to love kind of being, in classes, at the cafeteria, around the administration buildings and everything like that, and in the dorms, right? And that will give us kind of the time to be, have our time on campus and really enjoy that. But I don't think ever getting off campus, and kind of having a little bit of some kind of team time is a bad thing either. We kind of have our own little headquarters, right? We have our own little space. Can be a great place where we can kind of hang out and kind of play soccer and train at a high level, and kind of get to know the city a little bit more. And as a result, we can also be a little bit more open to the community, wanting to come out and watch games, right? Because, you don't necessarily have to be within the close vicinity of Baptist Bible College to come to a game now, right? So, there's definitely some pros that can kind of be gleaned from that if, you kind of look at it in the right way. And it's something we're embracing, right? But, at the same time, the university's got plans to kind of add some, on campus, sports stuff, right? Whether it be baseball, or kind of a soccer pitch and that kind of stuff. And so, they're definitely kind of supportive of what it is that we're doing, and, trying to be helpful in that way. And we'll kind of see how it all plays out. But, in the meantime, we're more than happy with the facility that we have right now. And, it's a beautiful drive out kind of through the countryside, and it has a very nice look to it. And then when you kind of first drive up and kind of start seeing the signs and on the field, it's kind of like just kind of seeing this beautiful oasis in the middle of nowhere, right? And as a result, it's very eye-catching and it's very aesthetically pleasing. And as soon as you kind of get there, the players' eyes just kind of explode out of their heads, because they can't believe that this is where they're going to be playing their collegiate soccer. So
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you play each week?
yeah, so for us, right now, we're in the NCCAA Division One, and so we don't really necessarily have conference play. What we're kind of looking to do at the moment, we have our schedule up for 2023. We've scheduled ourselves all against kind of NAIA teams, or NCAA Division Two teams, right? And so we're going to take that challenge as kind of being a first year program head on. We want to play high level soccer. We want players to come here who want a real collegiate soccer experience, and as a result of that, we've had a lot of, success on the recruiting side so far. And we're not going to be shy about getting into it right away, right? We want to figure out where we are with the players that we have. There's not going to be any kind of small stepping stones towards, well, let's see if we can play these guys because maybe we can sneak out a win, or let's kind of get really strategic here. It's going to be kind of feet to the fire. This is who we're playing. We're playing some very good teams, right? Let's go out there and get better. Let's go out there and make kind of our university proud, right? And let's kind of go out and kind of really start to kind of plant our flag in terms of us being able to make some noise within the city of Springfield and the state of Missouri as to there being kind of a new soccer program now in the area that is a very viable and economic opportunity for people to kind of get their 4-year degree, while also kind of going on to do whatever it is they want to do professionally, right? But with all of that being said, we're very much kind of looking forward to getting after that and seeing what can be possible there. There are some whispers about kind of potentially going to the NAIA in the fall of 2024, right? So that could be something for us to really look forward to. We'll kind of see how that plays out, but the players that we have have seen the schedule, and the first thing they kind of said is, wow, like, you guys are playing against some really good opponents, and that's what we want to do. We're not here to kind of go about it the easy way and try to make ourselves look good and try to get the record up and kind of fool everybody. We want to play against good teams, we want to play good soccer, and we want good soccer players to be a part of it.
Of course, who would be some of those teams in your surrounding areas that you would be playing against?
Yeah, good question. So I mean, our home and away schedule kind of consists of teams from all over the Midwest. So when we kind of look at it from kind of this upcoming year, we're going to play Baker University, who's from Texas, right? We're going to play the University of Tennessee Southern, so Tennessee team. We're going to play Truman State University kind of at home, right? We'll also go to other places in Kansas like Sterling College. In addition to kind of some places a little bit further away like Greenville University, they're in Iowa, Campbellsville University, they're in Kentucky, right? And as a result, other kind of schools like Central Christian College of Kansas, right? And so we're playing legitimate teams, as I said, and we're not going to be kind of scared to travel. We're going to kind of look to get around and kind of make some noise about our program. And as a result of that too, we've had a lot of success kind of recruiting in some of those areas, right? We want local players from the Springfield / kind of Missouri area, whether that be the high schools or transfer students, right? But we're not afraid to also kind of recruit out of state, right? And so we've had a lot of interest from places like Texas. We've probably got 3 or 4 kids now who are verbally committed from there. We've had conversations with players from Kansas and Oklahoma, Iowa, Tennessee, Kentucky, Mississippi, Arkansas, right? So we're kind of looking at the whole Midwest in terms of being like a really kind of powerful recruiting opportunity for us. And then one of the things that our university's done a really good job of is also being kind of really open and kind of putting the wheels in motion for international players, right? And especially for a sport like soccer, international players can kind of be a huge asset because the quality of soccer around the world is so high, right? And so we're having some conversations with players in different South American countries, in addition to kind of the Caribbean, the Mexico, Canada, right? And then lots of kind of European countries as well. So we're not going to be shy about kind of recruiting, outside of the, domestic United States, right? And, that requires a little bit of a student visa process through the government. And so, we've kind of gone through that now, and, it looks to be pretty well all set up. So, hopefully within kind of the medium term future, we'll kind of have 3 groups of players, right? We'll have our local players from Springfield or Missouri, right? We'll kind of have, some out of state kids, and then we'll also have, some international kids, right? And so, we'll pull skill from wherever it is that we can pull from it, right? But, we also kind of want to be diverse in where we're kind of looking for players, because no stone can really be untouched if you want to kind of build a championship level program. And that's something that we're kind of looking to do as we continue to kind of get our feet underneath of us.
Of course, can you talk about the culture that you've started to build for both the men's and the women's soccer side?
I think culture is an interesting word because it can mean so many different things, right? On one hand, you can kind of look at, a lot of the things going on, in collegiate or professional sports these days, and it seems so much like culture starts with the head coach or maybe the general manager, maybe the owner, maybe the president, depends on who exactly, that individual is and kind of their background and their level of success, right? I don't so much look at collegiate sports in terms of, it being all about the head coach or me, right? Like, sure, I'm the program founder, I guess, if you will. I'm going to be the first head coach, and so, there's some of the culture that will kind of derive, from me as an individual. But, I think a huge part of the culture as well is the players that you end up bringing in and kind of the relationships and the identity that they kind of form, as part of the team, right? And so, I often say a huge part of my coaching style, right, is of course me kind of being in charge of the organization and the management and kind of the direction, right? But, I don't necessarily need to have 100% control in terms of the decisions that we make, right? It's, college sports is designed, to benefit the student athletes, right? And so, we want to provide them with 4 years of really successful high-end soccer and helping them kind of get a degree, and kind of equipping them to be able to go on, professionally to be super successful, right? But, some of your best experiences when you're going to be kind of 18 to 22 years old is going to be them playing collegiate sports, right? Those are the relationships that they're going to make. They're going to probably could be sustained throughout, a good chunk of their life. A lot of the weddings and stuff that I've been involved in are because of the players that I've, used to go to university with. And so, we want that to be part of our program as well, right? We want them to have relationships. We want them to feel good about the university. We want them to kind of be on board with, the direction that the program is going, because after all, they're really the ones that are doing the work, right? They're they're the ones that put in the minutes. They're the ones that lift the weights. They're the ones that, have to kind of watch what they eat, and all that different stuff. And so, for it just to be kind of about the head coach and, all that stuff, that's not really my style of coaching. And that's not really what I wanted from my coach when I was a player. And so I'm not going to do that now that I have that power. What I'm going to kind of do is, do it like a team, right? How you feel about this? What do you think would be kind of the best opportunities to be successful here? What do you think about this decision, right? Because, then you're kind of empowering them to kind of think like, someone involved in sports management and someone who has, some leadership capabilities, right? And that can be really meaningful for them and their development as well. And, after all, if you're going to be the one kind of kicking the ball, going in the goal or whatever, trying to save it, right? You want to probably have a little bit of a say in terms of some of that stuff as well. And so I'm totally fine with that.
As a head coach, what is it like, obviously, getting to coach the men's soccer team in the fall and then the women's in the spring?
Yeah, so a lot of people think that, well, it depends on where you're from, right? At the high school level, a lot of the times the boys team will play in the fall and then the women's team will play in the spring. In collegiate soccer, that is not the case. Both men and women go at the same time. So, extensively here, we're kind of running, two sports programs, at the same time. And so it's going to be full on, right? We're kind of, planning to start our preseason around August 1st, right? And then, we're allowed to play our first countable game. I believe it's on August 17th or August 18th. So, we got about 17 days of preseason where, we're going to come together and, we got to get on the same page, both kind of from a performance standpoint, but also kind of from a personality standpoint, a relationship building standpoint, chemistry, all that different stuff. Right. So we've got a couple scrimmages lined up to kind of help get us, get our feet wet in that respect. But, it's going to be full on, like once kind of August 1st hits, there's going to be even less sleep than there is currently right now, and, we've started to tell the players about what to kind of expect and, obviously balancing classes and making sure that their time management good and getting rest and all that stuff because, the fall for soccer is busy, right? In the spring, it's a little bit less busy just because, you only have so many games, right? You don't necessarily need to be training every single day, right? You can kind of use it as an opportunity for them to work a little bit. We're going to do some fundraising stuff, and also a time to make sure that they're really kind of focused on their grades, right? And so, there's lots that goes on throughout the year, but for soccer, whether it's on the men's or the women's side, the fall is kind of go time, right? And that kind of leads basically from August 1st until the end of the regular season, and then you kind of see what you get into, whether it be conference play or regionals or playoffs and all that different stuff. Kind of throughout November, and then generally nationals is kind of sometime in late November or early December. So it can be kind of a very busy and hectic kind of 3.5, 4 months of soccer, right? Kind of leading into Christmas. And then, you kind of get a little bit of chance maybe just to kind of take a breath. But, at the same time, you're trying to recruit for that next year already, right? Probably on the junior side right now, I think on the men's side, we've probably had we've had a ton of conversations, but we've got about 50 names right now on our kind of board that we're kind of looking at for 2024, right? On the men's side, probably about 20 or so on the women's side. And, those numbers are going to kind of continue to really increase as the summer, kind of continues on here and those juniors become seniors, right? And so, there's no rest for the weary here, right? We're busy, 12 months of the year, but for the players, it's the fall time is really the go time.
Of course, what is that experience like getting to coach both the men's and the women's and having double headers?
Well, I think that's the thing that we're most kind of looking forward to, I think, right? Is, for some of those home dates or for those road dates, kind of being able to play two games in kind of one day and kind of the team supporting each other and kind of traveling together, right? And you kind of hope that you can maybe steal both games when you're on the road going to, somewhere in the Midwest to play, right? And then, for home games, obviously having the fans out, right? And kind of the community and maybe some of the youth soccer teams and the high school coaches and, just kind of really kind of, having that place that is your home and then where everyone kind of, can meet and have community, but at the same time where they can kind of root for their local collegiate team, right? And so, that's the reason you get up in the morning is because, when you've got two games, you want to go 2-0 that day, right? And so, yeah, we've got some days where the men's and the women's team will play on separate days just because of scheduling stuff, right? But there's going to be other days where, we've got kind of double headers, at Allison Sports Town, and it's going to be kind of a crazy 5-hour stretch in the afternoon or early evening, just kind of rooting for both teams and trying to get them over the line.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate soccer?
Yeah, so I think there's multiple pathways that you can kind of use. I actually had a phone conversation earlier today about this question exactly, because it can be very kind of overwhelming for a lot of people as they're kind of going through it, especially if they're not kind of as knowledgeable about maybe sports or collegiate sports and how that all works, right? So for us, what we kind of do, right, is we kind of use a multi kind of prong approach. So on the one hand, club soccer is very, very important, right? That is probably where the most visibility is in terms of the opportunity for the prospective student athlete, because they're going to play their club season, kind of throughout the fall and the spring. And during that time, they'll go to, a lot of kind of ID camps or tournaments and things of that nature where, there is a culture of kind of, college coaches, signing up to come and see them, right? And so, if you're kind of interested in kind of playing sports, specifically soccer at the college level, being a part of the club system is a huge way that you can kind of go about, improving your chances of being seen by somebody, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. A lot of, I think, parents and kind of students at the high school level kind of feel like if they're not part of that club system, that they're sometimes kind of neglected, right? And one of the things that has been really important for me, and where I am right now, like tonight, I'm going to up to Marshall, Missouri, right, to kind of watch a high school girls game. And like for us, that's about like a 2.5, 3 hour drive, right? And so the high school side is completely viable as well, right? You know, if you're not a family that necessarily wants to kind of do the club soccer, or maybe doesn't have the financial resources at the time to do that, right? You know, nothing wrong with playing, you know, high school kind of soccer and kind of being seen through that context as well. For whatever reason, you know, within kind of the college realm, the club system is definitely more popular. I don't know why that is, you know, necessarily. Maybe there's a little bit more structure in terms of there just kind of being the pathway there, but there's a lot of good high school players that, you know, end up kind of being missed because a lot of college coaches won't kind of go out to see some of those high school games. You know, but for us, I haven't been shy about doing that. You know, we've been going to high school games, you know, kind of right from the get-go of when I kind of got started, you know, and you know, whether that be invitational tournaments on weekends, you know, where you can kind of see 8 to 10 different teams kind of play 3 or 4 games, or, you know, kind of going through the schedule and trying to find, you know, 3 or 4 dates in kind of a week where, you know, you can kind of hit multiple teams, both on the varsity and then the JV side for the high school. We're going to do it, you know, because we want people to know about our program. You know, we want people to get connected on social media. We want to see that, you know, that we want them to see that we support kind of soccer at all levels. You know, and so whether you're on the club side or the high school side, you know, you can get recruited either way just by kind of connecting with, you know, the coach of the team who's coming out to your games, to your tournaments or whatever, right? And then there's kind of the digital world now, right? And that's obviously, you know, kind of been, you know, elevated with everything going on with COVID, because, you know, the ability for videos and technology and all that different stuff is so much greater now than everything. But you know, we do a lot of kind of recruiting, you know, on different platforms related to, you know, kind of high school or club players, right? So, you know, whether it be field level or the NCSA, you know, college prospects, Beacon, you know, there's a lot of different kind of recruiting sites up there now. And so, you know, if you're a player and kind of looking to play, you know, collegiate soccer, you know, you definitely kind of probably want to get a profile up on some of those different, you know, kind of recruiting sites, right? Because that's going to boost your visibility. You're going to be able to have kind of direct conversations with college coaches, you know, and as a result, it will probably widen your net to some of the areas that you may be able to play, just because, you know, you're going to be in contact with people from California, you know, Oregon, Washington State, you know, kind of all on the West Coast. You can connect with all the kind of the states and throughout the Midwest, right? And then as well on the East Coast, you know, and so there can be some really cool opportunities and some great scholarships, you know, that otherwise you may not really kind of be aware of, you know, unless you kind of put yourself out there and kind of really make yourself visible. And a great way to do that is on those recruiting sites as well.
As a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes when going out on the road recruiting them?
Yeah, so you sound like a recruit kind of yourself at the moment, because this is probably one of the more popular questions that I get, right? Like I always try to tell people, like, don't reinvent the wheel. You know, like each recruit as a soccer player has talents. You know, they have some strengths and then they have some areas for improvement, right? It doesn't matter who you are, you're going to fit into that bubble, right? For me, what's really important is I want to find out the best 3 or 4 things about their game, right? It can be passing, it can be dribbling, it can be, you know, their acceleration, it can be kind of the way they see the game, right? It can be their temperament, it can be their personality, it can be, you know, the way they want to take players on 1v1, right? I want to bring out the best in, you know, each individual recruit based upon their strengths. Okay. I think a lot of coaches, you know, tend to go into a situation and they say, okay, you know, you're good at X, Y, and Z, Brandon, but, you know, where you kind of struggle as a soccer player is with A, B, or C, and I'm going to help you with A, B, or C, right? And there's nothing wrong, I guess, with kind of looking at it in that respect, other than, you know, to some degree, you know, let's say they're a 2 out of 10 or a 3 out of 10 in some specific areas of soccer, right? Well, you know, how much time are you going to be able to really put into taking that 3 out of 10 to maybe a 4 or 5, right? There's not going to be a huge level of growth in trying to take the biggest areas of weakness in somebody and try to make them way better. What's probably a better kind of, you know, pursuit is to take some of their things where they're a 7 out of 10, an 8 out of 10, an 8.5 out of 10, right? And really try to kind of tap into those different qualities about those individuals in order for them to really shine, right? Those are the things that are going to allow them to be successful on the field. So, you know, I tell the kids, you have to get better at all areas of your game, right? But the things that you're going to be known for are the things that you are going to do the best. That is what's going to define your identity as a soccer player. Those are the things that are going to allow you to be successful, right? Than maybe some other players who aren't at that level. And so as a result, we really kind of want to develop your game around your strengths and then kind of help you improve on some of your weaknesses, not making you improve on all your weaknesses and hoping that the other things just kind of stay where they are, right? So I kind of alluded to kind of like a chemistry set, right? Like I want to take the potions and the chemicals and the elements and I want to really put it into like a pot, or some sort of chemistry glass bubble jar thing, right? And I want there to be a really cool explosion, right? And as a result of that, then we'll kind of manipulate the formation of the team, right? We'll try to find out what kind of skill sets best suit players in certain positions to really help them succeed, right? And if it's done correctly, the chances are that we'll get a really powerful outcome and everyone will feel really good about their game because the things that they know that they're very strong in and that they have high capabilities in are kind of being kind of put to the forefront in terms of their athletic potential for performance, right? So that's what I try to really work with the kids on, from recruiting, which is, don't let a lot of coaches get in your head about, you're not good at this, you're not good at that, really worry about kind of, obviously wanting to continue to get better every day, right? Improving your work ethic, improving your discipline, right? Not improving your motivation, but improving your discipline, right? Being committed to what it is that you're doing every single day. Motivation goes like this, right? Some days, Brandon, you and I probably want to work out because, we want to lose weight and kind of feel better about ourselves, right? 2 days after we're working out, our motivation kind of goes like this, right? Then you would go, oh, I kind of feel a little bit guilty about that drop in motivation, kind of get it back up a little bit, right? But through those peaks and valleys, you kind of have days on, days off, right? You want the discipline, right? The discipline of doing something every day, getting into that consistency, having that repetition, being in that mindset of no matter what the weather is like, no matter, what's going on with my life, I'm going to set some time aside for this today and get better at my sport. I'm going to improve. I'm going to make some sort of gain. That for me is the really most important thing. And then kind of, really driving forward on what kind of makes some of these kids very special in connection with their kind of individual skills and talents.
What does that official visit look like for prospective student athletes coming to Baptist Bible College?
Yeah, so the best way to always do it, right, is to get in contact with the head coach. All of our personal information is on the website, right? So you can email us, at any time. I'm a huge email guy because I kind of grew up in the 90s when I was young, right? And so, I'm always on my email typing away. And so email us, right? I kind of had another conversation with a separate recruit this morning, and he said, I'm not getting a ton of attention, and I feel like some of the other players around me are getting more of attention, right? And I said, well, what are you doing to kind of help further your cause? And he goes, well, I go to all the ID camps, I go to all the tournaments, right? Like I'm physically there. But I think the part that he was kind of missing out on was, if you're going to be somewhere, 3 or 4 or 5 days before that actual tournament or the camp, right? Email all the coaches who are going to be attending that event, and as a result, let them know, the days of your games, the times, the field locations, right? Do some research on their universities and their athletic programs, right? So what's going on, and just by kind of receiving that email, right, you're now kind of highlighting to that coach that you're interested in potentially coming to that athletic program, right? And as a result, they're probably going to take some time out of their 2 or 3 day kind of tournament to watch probably a half of your soccer game, right? And as a result of that, then you're going to kind of increase your kind of connections and responses, because now you're getting in front of people as opposed to people kind of hoping that you're going to kind of show up and kind of find you, right? And so the tournaments are great, the ID camps are great, the games are great in terms of visibility, right? But just kind of having it built for you is no longer enough. There's kind of the background stuff, which is you have to be communicating really well, right? You've got to be sending those emails. You got to be kind of, generally near your phone. So that way, if you get that text or that phone call or that email, right, then you're kind of ready for it. There's some recruits who I'll send emails to, and I won't get an email back for 7.5 weeks. Well, it probably tells me you're not really looking at your email, right? And as a result, that's probably why you're also not getting a ton of communication, because you're not really checking the things where the communication comes through, right? So, whether it be, text messages, phone calls, in-person conversations, like, be really willing to kind of network and kind of putting in some work. And if you do that, you will start to have a lot of dialogue with coaches. And as a result, that's a huge way where you can kind of get in front of me towards potentially kind of becoming, a student athlete and a player of ours.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen get to put on that Baptist Bible jersey for the first time?
Yeah, so I mean, we're literally just in kind of jersey ordering mode at the moment. I just sent kind of the, kind of the PDF files of what the jerseys would look like to our athletic director last night with all the costs and everything. So we're pumped about that. We want to be kind of wearing our school colors, right? We put a lot of work into kind of making the uniforms kind of, represent, our the identity of our kind of university, really well and related to the school colors and just kind of the way it looks and kind of feels, right? And so, I'm super excited for them. Whether they're a freshman, whether they're a sophomore, maybe they're a transfer from a junior college coming to play for their last 2 years, right? We've also had some players transferring in just for their senior years, just because they used to be student athletes and then they kind of walked away from it, and now they kind of got 1 year left of eligibility, and they want to play for the home team, right? They want to go out on a high note. So, getting to see them put on that jersey, is kind of one of the coolest things that can, you can really see, and especially on that first day when they're out there kind of warming up and getting ready for the national anthem, and then obviously going out and playing in that first half, like the feelings and the emotions are going to be extremely high. And that's the part for kind of college athletics for me that I can't get away from, and is why I'm partly continuing to kind of coach at this level now, as opposed to working somewhere else in an office from 9 to 5.
Of course, in the future, what is that going to feel like, obviously, to see those freshmen put it on for the first time versus the seniors putting it on for the last time?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of like the two sides of kind of the door, right? Is there's so much excitement and optimism and hope for potential and the future, when you're first coming in, right? And then that last game when you're kind of a senior, the unfortunate part for a lot of seniors is generally the last kind of moment on the field is a loss for you, right? There's not too many people that get to go out to kind of win that final national championship. There's only so many of them, and so it's a sad exit at sometimes, right? You put in 4 years of work, you've had a ton of games, you've been kind of working hard, in the weight room and kind of really improving your game over those 4 year periods of time. And then suddenly that door shuts and you're not allowed to, really ever kind of return in that kind of sense, right? And so, there's a harsh reality there, but that's why you gotta kind of enjoy it, every single day. You got to be willing to kind of to embrace the moment, right? It kind of seems like 4 years can be such a long period of time, but it can really kind of go by in the blink of an eye. And once it's kind of gone, right, you try to look back on some of those memories and you can't believe how time quickly passed you by. And so for all these kids, I tell them now, like, especially for me, like, it's really difficult to play now, right? Like, just through injuries and, kind of not playing every day, your body tends to get out of shape. And then, you try to get back into it a little bit and it just kind of feels like you're, kind of like a broken down machine, right? These kids have no idea how lucky they are to kind of have bodies that are so kind of, attuned to kind of being able to play sports for multiple hours every day, right? And so it's going to be the best time of their life. When they kind of look back on it, it's going to be where a huge chunk of their happy memories come from. It's a huge place of where they're going to make their relationships, and we hopefully they could be able to give back to the programs. But yeah, there's no kind of better feeling than kind of walking in that door as a freshman for the first time. And hopefully, for a lot of these kids, we can kind of make them feel really accomplished and successful, and that their time was worth it, as they kind of exit.
As a head coach, what is it going to feel like, obviously, to see those players, the men's soccer players, go on to the MLS and the women's go on to the NWSL?
Yeah, so I mean that's the cool thing about a lot of the conversations that I'm having these days, right? Is the conversation doesn't now necessarily have to end in terms of their soccer careers at the collegiate level. There can be the opportunity for them to go on to play professionally, right? And I've had a lot of those conversations, right? And a lot of them now are kind of like, hey, coach, like I really want to play collegiate soccer. I want to earn my 4-year degree, because I know soccer may not always be there for me as a professional opportunity, but I'm also really interested in trying to be a professional soccer, either on the men's or the women's side, right? And as a result, with all these different leagues kind of now, kind of in formation and kind of the soccer hierarchy, right? There's a lot of spots for them to be able to play, and so, it is something they should pursue, right? They should, if you've put 10, 12, 15 years into, kind of playing soccer, why not go on to try to play professionally, for a couple of years and see what can happen there, right? One of the coolest stories that I've kind of been a part of when I was an assistant coach at Trinity Western University, we had a player named Joel Waterman who was a very good player for us. He was one of the better players on our team, right? A fantastic kind of athlete, very good technically. And as a result, we were, very, lucky to have him because he helped us win a lot of games and to be kind of, successful on the fields. Um, from there, he kind of took his kind of collegiate career to kind of some of the lower levels of Canadian professional soccer, right? He played for Calgary FC and the Canadian Premier League, right? And then happened to get scouted by the Montreal Impact at one of their games. And that was when Thierry Henry was the head coach of the Montreal Impact, right? And so Joel went on to kind of play for the Montreal Impact. Now I believe he's in his 3rd season. He's now one of the starting center backs. And last year kind of had his breakout season. I believe he had about 2 goals and 4 assists as a defender. And one of the cool things was just because of injuries and kind of the way the depth chart kind of stacked up, he actually got to go to the World Cup in the winter to be part of the Canadian national team, right? So just think about that within kind of a 3 or 4 year period of time playing collegiate soccer, right? And then, kind of flip that, page over. And, the next day you're kind of playing against, Lukaku and Kevin De Bruyne and Hazard, in the World Cup, and so, a lot of these kids don't know, what the future can hold for them, right? They're naive in thinking that, things probably won't work out, but if you truly believe that soccer is kind of where you need to be and what it is you're called to do, pursue it, right? And we'll see where the professional game will take you. Yeah, some players won't make it to the high levels of Europe or even kind of MLS, but there's nothing wrong with having a nice little stint, kind of in the USL, while you're also kind of, maybe, working on the side, pursuing whatever it is you want to do in a business or education or science kind of context, right? But there's opportunities galore out there, and recruits should definitely kind of pursue that opportunity, after their collegiate time is over, and to see what they can kind of make of it, because there's all sorts of different players. Even now, Turner, the backup goalkeeper for Arsenal, right? He played collegiate soccer, and so you can be literally playing collegiate soccer one day in probably a small town where it doesn't seem like you get a lot of notoriety, and in a few short years, you're literally kind of playing on a team that has some of the best players in the world, and you're competing for the Premiership title, and maybe playing in Champions League in the future, and trying to get minutes in the first team. Like, what a story, what a journey, what an adventure, right? And so do it, see what can come of it. And it doesn't work out, then you still got your 4-year degree to kind of fall back on. And as a result of that, then maybe you can go on and do your master's and pursue some kind of future professional development and see where your career can take you from there.
What are some of your future plans for the program moving forward?
Yeah, so I mean, we got a lot of future plans. Just because when you kind of start initially, your head is just kind of, thinking nonstop about what can be and what can, what is realistic and what is kind of far-fetched fantasy, right? But the plan for us is to come in, right? Kind of in the short term, and be a really tough team to play against. We want players to look at us when they see us on the schedule and for their heads to kind of dip, right? Because they know that we're going to give them a tough 90-minute game, right? Maybe they'll end up winning, right? But they're going to have to really work for it, right? We're not going to give them a free pass, So that's kind of the short-term goal in the first year. We're going to kind of use it as a developmental opportunity for a lot of the players, but it's not going to be developmental in that we kind of shrug our shoulders, if we lose a game and say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. It does matter, but we may not put, all of our eggs in one basket in terms of saying, our life is dependent upon winning today. Maybe that can kind of come down in the medium term to long-term future. But in the short term, we want to have a lot of success with, really kind of making this a program where players want to play. We start to develop that winning culture, right? And, eventually that will kind of lead us in a couple of years to competing for, conference titles and making it far in playoffs and winning kind of conference championships and going to nationals and being ranked and eventually kind of, winning the ultimate goal, right? And so, that is my dream. I want to win a national championship down the road. Obviously for a first year program, that's probably not realistic, right? But you're going to use each year as a stepping stone opportunity to get better, right? You continue to add more things into your program, more resources, right? Right now, our university is kind of redoing the weight room, right, to kind of help give us some extra space, which will allow us to put in some more equipment, which will allow us to kind of be able to make more gains, for off the field kind of training, right? And so, it's going to be just taking everything that we have and just every year making it better, better, and better, right? And, maybe some years you don't get, as far forward as you want to, or maybe you have to take a step back, but within 2 to 3 years, we want to be way ahead than where we were, and, if you do that enough times, it's kind of like compound interest, right? Then eventually you're going to look at, your account and you're going to feel really good about it. And that's what we kind of want to do here.
What advice would you give those high school athletes looking to play collegiate soccer?
The advice is do it, why not, right? It's, a tremendous way to kind of complement your university experience, right? For a lot of us, we probably just go to university, we take 4 or 5 classes each semester, we write our final exams, right? And then we go to work in the summertime, right? There's nothing wrong with that life. It's a good one, it can do a lot for you, but athletics in college is special, it gives you, something to really kind of focus on, right? It gives you purpose in terms of, you continuing to kind of pursue your athletic abilities, right? You've put in all this time as kind of a youth, athlete, and, as a result of that, why not try to help pay down some of your tuition cost with academic and athletic scholarships, right? So give it everything you got, right? There's so many resources out there now where you can be successful and kind of drive your own kind of destiny, in terms of kind of the digital side of the recruiting, right? But get out there, play as many sports as you can, right? Don't listen to coaches that or administrators that tell you, you have to play, soccer year round or whatever it is. Play lots of different sports. Get really competent at a lot of different things. And get as many skills as you can get, when you're young, because then as you kind of get more sport specific, those things are going to kind of translate into doing what it is that you end up ultimately choosing to do. And that's only going to benefit you because you're going to have, way more kind of skill and kind of mental kind of, kind of the cognizance to be able to learn about what it takes to be intelligent at that specific sport and how to kind of navigate through it and how to continue to get better, right? And so do it. If you're scared, do it, right? The best things in life tend to come from, the moments when we're uncomfortable, right? If it was supposed to be easy, then everyone would do it. And so there's a reason why not everybody does it. But, if you're kind of on the fence about kind of playing or not playing, and, having some of these conversations right now, like, hey, coach, I could go to this university and just be a student, or, I could come to you guys and play, why not play, right? You're 18 to 22. You're not going to be able to play when you're 40, 50, 60, right? That's the time where you can kind of, back away from athletics and kind of decide what else you want to do. When you're young, pursue it, see what can happen, and kind of go from there.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of collegiate soccer?
Just be willing to learn. You come sometimes from a high school or a club background, and sometimes you're the best player. right? And as a result, you may score a lot of goals, right? You kind of may be kind of like the king of queen or the kind of campus, right? Or the high school wherever you come from, right? And right away you're going to come in, you're going to kind of be like that freshman again, right? And so it's the next level, right? We kind of take the 1 or 2, 3% from high school, and they come to college, right? And so now we're taking all of the best goal scorers, we're taking all of the best defenders, we're taking all of the best goalkeepers, and they're all kind of collectively joining, a new kind of 4-year kind of, athletic association, right? And so it's going to be difficult. A lot of people come in and have success right away. It's not realistic. You're now going to have to really learn to work, right? You're not going to be probably the most athletic or the most naturally gifted one on the field. And then in addition to that, right, there's a big gap between kind of being 18 years old and being 22 years old, right? Just physically, the time in which you're going to mature, right, during that kind of phase, the how much smarter, how much more kind of, emotionally kind of develop you're going to be in those 4 years is a big leap, right? And so, those are all areas in which um, a lot of high schoolers I think come in, right, and think that they're probably ready for it, and they kind of get the reality check that people are way further along than they are, right? So they get bumped off the ball because their opponent's been working out in the weight room, a lot over the summertime, and you've never worked in the weight room your entire life, right? So be willing to kind of think that everything that you've ever had in your life is true, right? But now you got to really dig back in again, and kind of rebuild it for yourself in terms of you getting to that next level and being successful, right? Be willing to learn, ask questions about every little thing that we do, right? One of the coolest stories in soccer is about Ronaldo when he kind of first showed up to Manchester United, right? He was annoying the heck out of everybody because of how many questions he was asking, right? Why are we doing this rehabilitation? Why do we go into the pool afterwards, right? Why do we stretch? Why are we eating like this? Why are we like wanted to know every little thing, right? Because he wanted to understand, okay, how does this improve my performance? Why, if I do this, how does this impact that? Right? If you're just kind of like a sponge in that sense, and then you actually do it, like your success rate is just going to kind of like skyrocket, right? So do that. It's your trade of kind of your craft of what it is that you want to do, like learn every single thing that you can about it, and especially in that first year it's going to make your second, third, and fourth year so much better.
What advice would you give those male athletes and those female athletes looking to play professionally, whether it's the NWSL, the MLS?
Well, I mean, again, like the opportunity is now there for you, right? Like when I was a kid, it really wasn't there. I had no idea how to go from basically playing youth soccer to ended up playing in Europe, right? I had no idea about how to join any North American soccer league because the pathway wasn't kind of, structured in a way that it made it reality, and so I had no idea, right? For me growing up in Canada, I knew how to get to kind of the NHL, right, through being kind of a youth hockey player, right? I knew, okay, I got to play my novice, Adam, Pee Wee, Bantam, Midget, going to go to, maybe Junior C, Junior A, OHL, AHL, NHL, right? And so I knew all the steps. I knew the teams, I knew the pathway, I knew how old I needed to be at what age in order to get there, right? That didn't exist for soccer. Now it does, right? With the kind of the inclusion of with MLS, that has come a long way. The national team programs have put a lot into that. Youth soccer clubs are all over now, right? And so there is a very kind of linear pathway that an individual can follow, right, to eventually kind of playing professional soccer, whether it be on the men's or the women's side. And so, now that you kind of have that in front of you, you got to take advantage of it, right? Because I would have loved to have been a professional soccer player, but if you can't see the end result, you're never going to get there. You know what I mean? And so now that end result is very clear for everybody, the soccer in North America is still very young, right? It may seem very intensive. It may seem, like a lot of people know what they're doing, but when you kind of compare us to a lot of countries in Europe, right, we are still an infant, and so go do it, be a part of it, right? Look at the Clint Dempseys of the world and the Landon Donovan, right? Like be the next players for that, go play for player or for teams in the Premier League, right? go play in World Cups. With the 2026 World Cup is going to be all throughout kind of North America. Like, go be a part of it, right? Experiences as much as you can, and if you're kind of doing the right things, and you got your personality down and your head on straight and you're working hard, there's going to be huge benefits down the road to players kind of coming out of North America and wanting to play kind of professional soccer for either gender.
What advice would you give those college athletes that are looking to get into college coaching after their collegiate career?
Well, I think it's like, definitely a natural progression to doing something that you love, right? I mean, if you've played high school or club soccer, and then you maybe go the collegiate realm, maybe you do a little bit of professional realm, right? Sometimes you can be a little bit lost as to what it is that you want to do kind of next in your life, right? But you've got all this knowledge, you have all this experience, you have, all these kind of moments that can kind of help shape that, right? And so, one of the coolest things for me is like, I love to play, but it's like way more rewarding kind of helping out like 30 or 50 players on your team, and helping them develop and helping them progress and helping them get to where they want to be than it is for just me taking care of myself, right? And so, do it, right? If you kind of feel like, the high school level is kind of where you want to make your coaching mark and you kind of want to be a teacher at the same time, right? Like, I have great relationships with hundreds of high school coaches across the United States now. If you feel kind of like the more of the college is kind of more your level, then work towards that, right? Be a high school head coach, get some experience, then maybe latch on as the assistant coach at a kind of a local college for you, right? Learn, put in the years, right? And within probably 5 to 6 years, you'll be ready to take over a team and you can kind of lead the charge, right? But it's the perfect opportunity for someone who's athletic and kind of interested in sports management and who still wants to be involved in the game of their choice, right? To be able to give back and be able to kind of stay in that intensity and kind of, that adrenaline rush of athletics, because, that is what it separates it from other kind of, areas of business, right? The games, the scoreboards, the fans, the uniforms, the equipment, everything goes into it. It feels special, and so as a result, right, if you want to continue to have those moments in your life, go get some coaching certification, get a team and see what can happen from there.
What advice would you give those head coaches that are looking to build their own program and build their own legacy?
Yeah, I think probably one of the best things, right, is your time management has to be like excellent, and even though you may think that your time management is excellent, like, you can kind of look at that in terms of just like tasks and errands that you have to do every day, right? But you also kind of have to set aside a little bit of time for yourself, right? Like, for me, I'll be sitting at my laptop for hours on end doing recruiting, right? Writing emails, doing whatever sorts of things that I need to be doing, right? And if I don't get up and exercise or at least go for a walk and kind of like get rid of some of that nervous, energy, like it really starts to affect my kind of performance work wise, right? And so you've got to be willing to take a few breaks here and there just to kind of get your mind back in order, to kind of get some of that energy out of your body, so that way you can kind of really get back to kind of having a next productive work session. So take a little bit of time for yourself. I mean, it doesn't need to be a ton, right? You don't need to get a 4-hour workout in, right? But whether it's just a quick 30-minute walk around the block, or you go to your own gym and you just do a few kind of moments of exercises, right? Do something for yourself, so that way you can pour 100% into your actual kind of task, which is to build your soccer program, right? And as a result of it, your body will be a lot stronger for it. Mentally you'll be a much more kind of happier, in terms of just the way you feel about yourself, right? And then you can still know that you put in, a high level of quality of work every day. But for me, when I kind of find that when I don't put in that kind of, a little bit of exercise time, I'm almost more unproductive, right? And so you can't go like 180%. You've got to do some things for yourself along the way, but it's got to be kind of geared towards, okay, I'm doing this so that way I can put it back into kind of coaching or kind of program building, an hour from now.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Baptist Bible Soccer Program app?
Yep. So you can find us on Instagram at BB Patriots MSOC or WSOC, same as Twitter. And we kind of try to post, as commonly as we can, usually every day, but if not every couple of days. As well to kind of go to our website, right? And kind of follow along. We'll update kind of the schedule in terms of results throughout the season, right? So you can kind of see, how the players are doing. And then, if you're looking for recruitment inquiries, definitely go on the website as well. Kind of find me in the coaches section there, shoot me an email, and I'd be more than happy to kind of reach out to you and kind of start building that relationship and seeing what it is that you kind of want for your educational journey and your kind of athletic career, and we'll see if we can kind of make that a reality for yourself.
Thank you again, Coach Jamie Brooks, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Baptist Bible College as the head men's and women's soccer coach.
Thanks so much for your time, Brandon. I hope your sports talk show continues to go well.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon. You can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Jamie Brooks, for your interview, and best of luck in your future at Baptist Bible.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.